G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Olivia Jenkins from Olivia Jenkins, based in Adelaide, Australia. Thanks for your time today, Olivia.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with how we know each other. So your PR agency reached out, thought you might be a good guest for the cast. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
Looking forward to it.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yes. So my name is Olivia Jenkins and I run Olivia Jenkins Consulting, which is a consulting firm based out of Adelaide. We serve clients all over the country and work with a number of international clients as well. Our core business in consulting is focusing on growth for e-commerce businesses in particular. So we work across areas like email marketing, promotional planning, marketing strategy, Facebook ads, Google ads, influencer management, etc. So quite a broad mix of services that we offer. And my work as a consultant, I focus on whole of business. So looking at people, product, and processes, not just focusing on the growth, but also focusing on the sustainability and what underpins that as well. So I can make sure that the clients that I serve last the distance and don't experience some of the growing pains that a lot of businesses can when they're unprepared.
Yeah, great to hear that you focus on niche down e-commerce businesses. That's what you really want to, who you really want to help. That's fantastic. And I'm assuming that all your clients would have boomed in the last 2.5 years with COVID. I've got a couple of mates, as I mentioned before we hit record, here in Tasmania who have big e-commerce businesses, and they've literally doubled in 2.5 years.
It has been an amazing journey. Since mid-2019, when I started the business, we've helped clients generate over $45 million in revenue through the work that we've done. So I know I was saying to you off air, there was definitely a period of time when COVID hit where I thought, oh my goodness, I might lose all of my clients. Everybody is, going to cut ties with their consulting agreement. And fortunately, what we experienced was the opposite of that. And, all of the clients have had a lot of growth and have been able to sail out of this awkward COVID period unscathed and have had a lot of growth. So that's wonderful.
How did you start out?
I started out very organically, actually. So I left the business that I was working for as a general manager in a global beauty brand at the end of the financial year in 2019 and started on the 1st of July. I actually onboarded that business as my first client. I was very fortunate that I had a wonderful relationship with my boss at the time, and she trusted me in coming on board as a client. So that was my month one. At the end of month one, I actually decided that it was better that we cut ties and went our separate ways. We're still wonderful friends now and there's no issue there, but I just decided that if I was going to start the business, I needed to fully embrace that and stand on my own 2 feet. So
you burnt all the boats, as they say.
Burnt the boats. I went all in, and I think sometimes we need to do that, even though it can be terrifying, but it just allowed me to really step into that CEO mindset and step away from being an employee, because even though I was a senior manager in that business, I was a general manager, stepping into a CEO mindset is still different to being a GM. So that transition allowed me to do that. And essentially from the 1st of August, I launched the business. I did a social media post and I booked out that day. So that very day that I put that launch post out and said, I'm starting my own consulting business, please reach out if you want to work together, I booked out that day, which was amazing. So I had very rapid growth. I think clients really loved the expertise that I offer in specific industries. So I specialize in health, beauty, fashion, lifestyle. All of the clients that I work with fall under one of those areas. And so I have a lot of expertise and connections and credibility that I've built up over a long career in corporate before going into consulting. And I also pride myself on being a whole of business solution as well. So clients felt that they could really rely on me, I guess, for the strategy, but also the implementation. So I learned very quickly that what I thought was going to happen wasn't what was going to happen. And that was in the sense that I really thought that when I started consulting, I would be meeting with clients once a month. And we would do, a 4-hour board meeting and go through a set agenda, and I would send them on their merry way and I would catch up with them again next month. That is not at all what happened.
No one does their homework.
Well, that's right. And what I realized as well is they often don't have the resources available to them to be able to do the implementation or they can do the implementation, but the execution's not quite right. So what I learned very quickly is that there was going to be equal parts strategy and implementation. And that is the signature offering of my consulting now. So still to this very day, I pride myself on the signature combination of strategy and implementation. So that's how it all began.
And so you were a general manager. The work you're doing now with your clients, was that the kind of work you were doing as a general manager, or you've had to learn very fast?
Yes, it's very similar to the work that I was doing in a previous life. So in my general management positions, I obviously had a team that was reporting through to me, and I was doing a lot of mentoring and developing of those team members to upskill them and elevate them in the business, but also ultimately in their careers. I do still do a lot of that. However, I'm not in the business with the client on a day-to-day basis. So the day-to-day operational things are still done by the client, and I provide advice and expertise where required to help them on that journey or help them with leadership things that may pop up. That's probably the fundamental difference, though, is not being there on a day-to-day level. So I do try and remove myself from the day-to-day correspondence. Otherwise, I'd never get any work done.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I would be bogged down with all of those day-to-day things. But yeah, it's very similar.
And mid 2019, when you launched, how old were you when you made the jump?
27.
Yep.
At that stage. I also fell pregnant with my third in March of 2020 or April. So that was not essentially part of the plan. It was a very lovely addition to our family, having number three. However, I probably was a little bit unprepared for that as well, in how that would have looked for, the business, etc. And I did have some complications during that pregnancy as well, which meant that I had to be on bed rest from 8 weeks gestation. So what I decided to do at that point was essentially scale the business. And that's what I did in the year of 2020, which was peak COVID.
So was that the catalyst for you to really onboard team members, or you'd already started that? Yeah. Yeah.
I was a little bit naive, I think, in regards to team. And I did do a lot of the work on my own for a really, really long time. And I think it just took a bit of a mindset shift to get over myself, essentially, and realize that if I wanted to go far, I needed to have a good team on my side. Sure, I could do things faster if I did it on my own potentially, but I would not have the longevity in my business. I would either burn out, have a mental breakdown, or eventually the wheels would come off. So I decided after I had my daughter to onboard my first team member. I did have some support in the business through a contractor for admin and back-end support, but I onboarded my first official team member early in 2021, I think it was now, and the team rapidly grew from there. And one of the big mindset shifts I had to make was, if something was to happen to me, for example, birth, if I had my daughter and I didn't have any support in the business, my clients wouldn't hear from me for a certain period of time. If I become unwell, what happens to the workload? Things can't just stop if I'm unwell. So I basically had to make that mindset shift of, I actually need the support to be able to provide a better service to clients. And that's what really allowed me to then step forward and make those changes and implement an amazing team.
And the other way I think about and talk about this, and a little bit of the coaching I do as well, is that you can also help a lot more clients if you've got a team rather than just relying on yourself.
Definitely.
Do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last bit over 3 years now?
Yes. So I'm a 7-figure consultant. My sales grew 120% from FY19 to FY20 and 68% from FY20 to FY21. And I've had about a 270% increase from FY19 until the financial year just closed in 2021.
Holy shit, that's great. Wonderful growth.
Yes.
Phenomenal. And what about team members? You started on your own. What full-time equivalent are you up to now?
Started on my own, obviously, in the very beginning. Now we have 9 team members that work across all different areas of the business, including Facebook ads and Google ads. I do have standalone team members there, simply because those areas require a specific skill set and expertise. And things are changing so rapidly in those areas. It's really important to me that we are able to provide the best quality service to our clients and ultimately get the best results. So we have team members that are based in different areas of the country and also different parts of the world as well. And I've really been very specific about onboarding team members that are the best at what they do and of a world-class standard, because the work that we're able to deliver to clients is something that I'm really proud of.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I think when I was applying for an award, I was applying for a business award, and one of the metrics that I looked at was the sales number that I've been able to generate working with clients. And I think it was after the first year or second year, it was around 20 or $25 million in sales revenue that I'd been able to help my clients generate. And I think for me, that was a real penny drop moment of the huge achievement of that in itself in business, but also for the timings of being mid-COVID, having another baby, having pregnancy complications, etc., and still being able to pull off this amazing result. In addition to that, though, it's the conversations that I have with clients around the changes that they've been able to make in their own businesses, the way that they see their business, the way that they show up every day in their business with more confidence, with more clarity, even hiring their husbands to come and work in the business with them, which has been really rewarding for them as an individual and as a family. And also just the financial outcomes that a lot of these clients have been able to tap into, financial outcomes that they never even thought were possible. They've now been able to achieve and are always striving forward to look into different investments now and different ways of doing things. So that for me has been really rewarding. Even as a general manager in my past life, I loved being able to support the CEO and deliver the absolute best that I possibly could. And that is ultimately what led me into a career in consulting, is my love and passion and joy for serving a CEO.
What does success look like to you?
This is an ever-moving compass. I actually had this conversation with my husband a couple of weeks ago because we went to a personal development seminar together. And that was one of the questions that I had to answer on the panel. I was a speaker on the panel. And when I thought about it, I feel that success is an ever-moving compass. And if you had asked me this question 2 years ago, it would have been different to the answer that I give you today. Success for me is not just related to success in my business, it's success in various areas of my life. And I underpin all of my goals and all of my success to my core values and the things that are ultimately most important to me. So that considers things like family time and how much quality time I'm able to spend with my loved ones and my family. The work fulfillment that I get, that could be the type of clients that I'm working with, the types of industries that I'm serving, and the type of results that I'm able to achieve with those businesses. It's also about my own development as well, because growth is a really important core value for me, and making sure that I'm continually investing in myself with mindset, spirituality, business topics, and growth. So success to me is just total fulfillment in all of those areas. And I don't think I could limit it to one specific area, because I believe it's much more holistic than that.
Perfect question for you. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Ooh. You would not believe the amount of clients that I work with for the first time that actually don't have a plan.
I would
They
believe
don't
you.
have a business plan.
Yeah.
They don't have a strategic plan. They don't have a marketing plan. There's no promotional calendar. And for me, that is the very first place that I would start. If you're an established business, you need to analyze your data. I'm a data girl. That's the first thing I do, is collect data, because if without proper data, we're not able to make good decisions. And then aside from that, having all of those fundamental strategic pillars in place, do the business plan. Even if you're 3 years into your business journey, if you haven't got one, do your business plan, do your strategic plan, implement your marketing plan, and work to a plan. Because if you're not working to a plan, you don't know what your objectives are, you don't have any goalposts set up, you're flying blind.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I think I had this conversation earlier actually with a client, because I did a strategy session. And one of the things that I said is, there are such low barriers to entry in e-commerce. It is really not difficult to find a private label manufacturer, whack a label on, pop up a website, and away you go these days. It is so competitive, and there are a lot of smart people out there running really good businesses. And as you know, because we have this conversation off air too, they're able to achieve phenomenal growth in a very short space of time and outdo a competitor that might have been in the market with majority of the market share for 10 years. And what's, I think, the most important thing is just making sure that everything that you're doing at a phenomenal level. It's not enough these days just to be good at something. We have to be great or exceptional in order to really maintain that competitive advantage. So My advice is also not to become complacent and be really disciplined in the approach that you're taking in your business.
Yeah, totally agree. How did you fund the business?
Myself.
Yep.
Luckily, in a service-based business, there's not a lot of capital that you need to start because you're trading time for money or results for money essentially in the early stages. So I was fortunate to have the capital and just sort of work my way up as I went. And in the beginning, I had very low overheads because it was just myself that I was considering. Nowadays, obviously, there's a lot more cost, but also we're able to work with a lot more clients and deliver a lot more in terms of results.
So no bank finance or investors, it's just yourself?
Just myself.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Yes. I love what I do. I was at a real fork in the road because I'd always worked in beauty brands, health brands, in that sort of general management and marketing capacity. And I remember when I decided that I was going to start the business, there was a little moment where I thought to myself, should I start a beauty brand? Should I start a products-based business and do the e-com thing? Or should I go into consulting and be of service? And when I really self-reflected, I knew in my heart of hearts that I loved being that general manager, that outsourced GM. And that's ultimately why I went into service. And I really wouldn't change anything in terms of the pathway.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask you. Why wouldn't you do your own brand? But you've obviously answered that now, and it's great that you took that time to reflect and realize what is going to, light your fire every day, and it's supporting other e-commerce owners to hit their goals.
I know my strengths as well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book Rocket Fuel. Have you read that before?
Yeah, I have.
For those of you who are listening who haven't read that book, read it. It's amazing. But it essentially talks about the two roles being visionary and integrator. And a visionary is my ideal client. I work with visionaries every single day of the week. They are very big picture ideas, vision, a lot of the time innovation and new product development focus. They often lack the confidence and I guess desire to be the implementers and put the structure in place and I guess help the business achieve those outcomes. They're good with a big picture, but they need someone else by their side to do the doing. And I really believe that I'm a classic integrator. And that is the missing piece of the puzzle for my clients that they've been looking for all this time is I just need someone on my team that can implement this and can tell me, okay, you have a lot of ideas, but which ones are actually commercial and are going to make money and serve our vision, and which ones are just great ideas, but they should be left as ideas. So I decided that service was the right path for me just based on that as well.
Yeah, it's a great book, Rocket Fuel. Gino Wickman, he also wrote Traction. He's part of the EOS Entrepreneur Operating System movement, which is awesome as well. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Definitely Black Friday season is up there with the most stressful time. I had my daughter on Black Friday in 2020. That was a very stressful time. I didn't have any team members in place at that particular moment in time who could support me. And it was a very scary feeling. And I think we can all relate to this, whether your situation was the same as mine or not, just a time in your business where you had so much to do and there was so much riding on you being in optimum health or being present, etc. But you've had something catastrophic go on somewhere and not having that support in place. For me, this was a big moment, like what we were chatting about before, to make sure that I was more adequately prepared for such situations. I was fortunate in that I thought ahead and had a lot of the work done, but there were things that needed to be done that day that I had to do at the time. I couldn't have done those things any earlier or any later. They just needed to be done right then and there. So for me, it's just making sure that you have your potential risks mapped out and what your risk management strategy is going to be if those things actually do happen, and not become complacent and think that those things may not happen to you, because they could. And we need to be prepared if they do.
Yep. For context for the international audience, do you want to explain Black Friday?
Black Friday is the biggest, arguably, the biggest e-commerce event of the year. So this traditionally happens the last weekend of November each year. And we have Black Friday on the Friday and Cyber Monday on the following Monday. And essentially that promotional period is referred to as Cyber Weekend. And it's often when brands will put out their best offers and their best deals. So there is a lot of revenue being generated in these businesses at that time. and also a lot of hype and a lot of inbox overwhelm as well that goes with that, because our inbox gets very, very busy as a consumer.
Yeah. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Mindset. Even though I feel I was probably more advanced in this area than the average person, just because I had such an interest in self-development and mindset and spirituality from a really young age, I still feel like fundamentally when I left being an employee, again, even though I was a general manager and I was a senior person in that business and in various businesses, I still had to change my mindset from being an employee to being a CEO. And that, without a doubt, has been the biggest thing to help me in my business. I say all the time to my husband and to my clients that somebody could be further along in their mindset journey than you are, but maybe could only deliver half of what you can deliver. They're still going to be more successful just based on the fact that they've got their mindset fully backed. If you're not investing in your mindset and how you're showing up every day, you're just not able to reach your full potential.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I think potentially just some of the chaos. Whenever you're growing a business and you're experiencing growth, there are definitely times where you can feel as though your attention is being dispersed in every which way. And particularly in consulting, I could work across several clients in one day, sometimes in 1 hour, if things are getting thrown at me from all angles. So there is a real sense of needing to ground yourself at the end of a day or at the end of a week and make sure that you're getting out of the parallel universe of being, in your business and in those four walls. And I think it's also being disciplined in having at least 4 hours a week that you're working on your business and not in it, just so you can recalibrate. Because like I said earlier, with the chaos, that feeling of being torn in 55 different directions can be very taxing. And it can leave you feel like you're dizzy and you don't know which way you're able to step forward because you are dizzy. You've just had 55 things thrown at you in one day and you need to recalibrate.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
The energy, the high energy, the growth, the wins, the excitement, the stopping and smelling the roses. The growth in my industry is we sell results. That's what we sell as a service-based business. And for me, the growth is a real reflection on the work that we've been able to deliver and the output that we've made, essentially, and how that's translated into our clients' businesses. So I love the energy, and I'm probably more of a salesperson naturally than most as well. So for me, I get a real kick out of that growth.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Potentially around delivering results and linking retainer cost to results and not time. I think this is a big one for a service-based provider as well. It's not simply about time for money. It's also about results and moving past I'm not an employee on an hourly rate. This is essentially a formal business that has operating expenses and overheads that need to be considered, insurances, subscription costs, all of these additional things that need to be factored in, and being confident and backing yourself to price your services according to what they're genuinely worth.
I remember reading years ago Seth Godin on his email list, a very short blog post he had about an architect somewhere in the US. This building had been built and the roof was leaking. It was like a 40-story building. And they were going to have to rip the roof off because they'd had so many consultants through to try and get rid of this mold problem near the top of the building. They finally had this last architect in to have a look at it. And he said, yeah, I know what could solve this, but it's going to cost you $500,000. And they said, well, it's better than $5 million, whatever the cost was to rip the roof off. And so they agreed, and he just got his notepad out, wrote on the notepad a certain type of paint that was needed, and handed it to them. They paid the money, obviously, because they were happy with, obviously, the value. They've just saved $4.5 million by giving this guy. So very clearly he knew the value of, rather than just that 1 hour or 2 hours he spent with them, the value that he was bringing to them. I thought it was a really insightful blog post by Seth.
I love that. And I think this is one of the conversations that I have regularly when people ask what I do and why you need a business consultant. There have been times where I've had a strategy session with a startup client And I have literally saved them thousands of dollars and countless hours of time because they were about to make a mistake that ultimately would have cost them tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it is about getting the right advice, which will then in turn save you a lot of money, but also save you time. So it's essentially a shortcut to achieving that success, whereas potentially your competitors might take a much longer time to get to where you're now at.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I think time blocking and being very intentional about where you're spending time. I am a book fiend. You've probably worked that out by now. I love the book Essentialism for this. It talks a lot about focusing on the things that are essential and leaving the non-essential tasks off the list, because we can maximize our outputs a lot simply by focusing our time on where it should truly be spent and being disciplined. So I would combine the advice that you get in Essentialism in terms of what's essential and what's not with a book like Atomic Habits, which talks about the goal not being important, but the habit that underpins that goal. And that leans into more of that disciplined view of life as well. And the more disciplined we can be around things, the better life can be, I think.
Yep. Be the change you want to see in your business. Become more productive and less stressed with our free Transform Your Performance online course. Once you see the benefits, put your entire team through the course at no cost. We start out by telling you the secret to guaranteed success, then over 100 lessons help you be more focused, present, productive, and feel more in control about work. growasmallbusiness.com. Great question for you. You've added about 8 team members in the last 18 months. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
I am very passionate about leadership, and I'm passionate about HR and the process of onboarding correctly in the first place. I think a lot of the time when businesses go to onboard a new team member, a lot of the time they haven't done the work to prepare what they should have prepared before they even put that ad up. So I would encourage you to really spend the time to think about what is the gap in the business at the moment? What are the duties that would need to be completed? What are the KPIs for that role? What qualities are you looking for in that person? Making sure that it's not just about salary. You need to think about what type of individual do I need in this role? Do I think that they are going to need a lot of supervision, or do I really need this person to hit the ground running, come to me with all of the expertise that they need so that I can leave them in this role to be quite autonomous and work within set parameters? So really thinking about all of those questions before you even go to put the ad up, so that when you start getting those candidates come through, you can strike while the iron's hot. You know exactly what you're looking for and the candidates that come through and which ones are a good fit and which ones aren't, as opposed to then umming and ahhing about, oh, well, I haven't really thought about that. That person wants this much money, and you're not prepared. So I would spend the time on the onboarding. I've always done that to be a very slow hirer in terms of getting everything, all of my ducks in a row first. And then, yes, you can hire quickly once you've done the work, but also onboarding correctly as well. So before I even onboard a team member, I have a whole onboarding plan already mapped out. I'm going to take them through my vision, my mission, my values, what we do for clients, what key tasks are forming their role, how you complete those tasks. If I think there needs to be explanation around that, we have standard operating procedures. We have Loom screen recordings recorded. So all of those processes are documented. And I also make it very clear what my KPIs are and what my expectations are of that team member as well. So they know where they stand. We've had all of those conversations in advance. And then that way there are no awkward moments at the end as well, where we have to revisit things that we've already touched on.
That's terrific, Olivia. I totally agree and advise that to people that I work with. That I think a lot of business owners miss that onboarding investment, that old saying, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And it just sets that relationship up for success, because you've set out the what success looks like in that role. You've inspired them. You've really brought them into the team very quickly. So yeah, that's great. What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think understanding what motivates your team. Everyone is wired a little bit differently, and some of us have different motivators. Some people might be more incentivized by feedback, verbal feedback and praise, feeling appreciated in their role. Some people might be more incentivized by financial rewards. So really understanding what makes them tick. I think you need to think about what your core values are and how you bring those through in your day-to-day work that you're delivering as well. So a lot of the work that I do with clients and in my own business as well with values is really think about how a core value like growth is able to filter down into all the different departments in the business and all the different people. And this is really good as well, because I think when you have values in place and you have a team member or a situation arise that perhaps hasn't gone to plan and the behavior wasn't 100% right, you can actually link it back to a core value. Then it takes the personal attack out of those types of conversations, because you simply link the behavior or the outcome back to the core value instead of it being about personal opinion. And I think all of those things help to create a high performance team. And also being tough but fair. I'm a really big believer on that. I don't think that we have to do this 80s mentality of, you must do this and you must do that and be this real fear-mongering approach. I think you can articulate yourself in a way that I guess has the same messaging, but without all of that heat. And providing you're tough but fair, you will still ultimately have the respect of your team. It's just the way in which you go about it.
Yeah. As I like to say, management by fear does not work. I tried it early on in my career. I experienced it. My one and only ever job out of uni, and I've seen a few businesses I've worked with. And it's really sad to watch.
It is. And it can be a very soul destroying thing for everybody that works in those types of environments too. And I've had a number of people in my network and friends that have worked in these types of businesses, and the scars that you can have from working in these environments can last a lifetime. So yeah. I would never want anyone that works in my team to experience those types of situations.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Oh, this is a work in progress. This is
I've got to know you've got effectively 4 babies, 3 kids and a business. I do. And a husband.
And I didn't tell you this, but we actually live on a primary producing farm. So we have a couple hundred head of sheep, we have cattle, we have a cropping venture. So there's actually 4 businesses between myself and my husband, and we have 3 kids. So life is busy. Balance is a constant juggle, and it's something that I'm continually refining and getting better at. I've come to realize that there are going to be times in the year where I am much more busy. For example, this season at the moment in Black Friday season, the last calendar quarter of the year, is traditionally very, very busy. So it's just about setting yourself up for success and making sure that you bring in the support to still be able to achieve the balance as best you can in those busy times. So in my case, I'm not afraid to ask for help. So at the moment, I have a lot of support with dinners and food shopping and all of those things, so that when I get home, I can actually spend time regrounding myself, going out and riding my horse and doing the things that light me up and refill my cup outside of the office. So that when these times are busy, I've already thought about how I could best prepare myself. I don't think life is about always having the perfect balance, because we know that life happens and things happen and sometimes the wheels fall off. But do you have a strategy in place? Have you got a proper preparation plan when you know that you're heading into a time where you're going to be particularly stressed? Yeah. So they're the things that I try and do. And I try and do a lot of things for my health as well that help to keep me as healthy as I possibly can. Because again, like essentialism teaches, you have to protect yourself as the asset. If you as the asset in the business are not healthy, you're not getting enough sleep, your health is not at its best, you cannot show up and be your highest and best self.
Totally. How much professional development have you invested in yourself? Sounds like it's a bit.
Thousands and thousands and thousands. I have spent a lot of money on development over the years, but for me, it's an investment, because I still today continue to reap the rewards of courses that I did years ago. So I remember going to Tony Robbins. I did Unleash the Power when I was 21. That was amazing. I've done NLP as well. I did my NLP practitioner at the end of 2019. That helped me to no end. I'm just about to do my master's in NLP in December and February. And I think that's just going to launch things into a whole new stratosphere again. And I invest every month in business development, professional development, more courses. I would love to start my law degree next year. That is the next thing I'd love to start chipping away at. So thousands. I wouldn't even like to think about the number, but I just know that number has it's provided a considerable return on investment in the work that I do.
Wow, you are giving Tina Tower, who I had on episode 40. I don't know if you know of Tina. She's got an online business now, but she had some bricks and mortar businesses, and she is a real go-getter like yourself. I just can't believe what you've reeled off, what you are planning on, also adding to your plate. But yeah, that's great.
I was told that, and this is by somebody who did a law degree, and they said, even if you do it part-time and it takes you 6 years, 6 years is going to pass whether you're doing the law degree or not. So just do the law degree.
Yeah. And for the audience, NLP is neuro-linguistics programming, which is quite a powerful thing. And I think business owners should look into it as well. Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Yes, many, many, many. The first mentor or coach I think I had realistically would have been an executive chairman that worked in one of the businesses that I worked with very early in my career. I was about 19 when I went to a strategic marketing for CEOs course with my then boss. And I met this man, this executive chairman, and he has become the most dear friend and mentor over the years. He was actually at my wedding earlier in the year, and I see him as a second dad, but he has had a phenomenal career in consulting. He was one of the people, I guess, that inspired me to go into consulting myself. And one thing that I really loved about him and his approach is that he's an ethical consultant. And I think there's a lot of unethical consultants. And I suppose you could say this about any industry, but it is something that I've noticed, particularly in my space. It's very unregulated. And you often will come across people that are positioning themselves to be someone or something that they're not. And one thing that I always loved about Wayne is he was very ethical in everything that he did. And he taught me very early on to always do the right thing. Even if the right thing felt a little bit more difficult to do, always do the right thing. So he was a big part of my mentoring and still is. I often will pick up the phone to him when a crisis happens and get his input or view on things. And over the years, I think it's just been various mentors, whether that be an author in a book that I've read that I've gained a lot of value of, an NLP educator that I've done the courses with. So I have lots of mentors. And I think in some ways my kids can offer a lot of mentoring as well in the things that they teach me each and every day. So it's a mix.
Yeah, good. My daughter's the same, just over 9. I learn a lot from her.
Yes, I think that's not going to change.
No. Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, I don't have a formal board of directors. I don't believe at this stage in my business it would be necessary. I think when I started the business, just to put this into perspective, I say this often, I never started the business to be the biggest. I started the business to be the best. So I'm not a volume business. I am very much a very exclusive clientele or group of clientele that I work with very, very closely to achieve amazing outcomes. However, I'm not intending to grow the world's biggest agency. It's not something that I'm passionate about. I think if I was to go down that path, I would absolutely see the value in doing that, but not at this stage.
Yeah. All right, Olivia, on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think it would be, for a lot of people, I think this rings true for myself, but also for a lot of people, it's continually motivating your team and getting the most productivity out of your team at all times. If you're a sole trader, if you're working on your own, the only person that you're having to worry about is yourself. But in having a team, you're continually finding ways to keep them motivated, to overcome hurdles together, to seek operational improvement, that continual improvement approach to everything that you're doing. And that can be quite a journey, particularly when you have different personalities, different motivators, different roles, etc. So that has definitely been, I guess, the key challenge.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Rocket Fuel. I had to think about that. There's so many that I love, but I think Rocket Fuel has been amazing.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I listen to a lot of podcasts. It's very mixed. I love Amanda Bucci. She is a lady from the States and she has a very spiritual view on the things that she does. And I also like Georgie Stevenson, who's an Australian podcaster as well. And I'm a big fan of Social Media Examiner, but I actually haven't listened to their podcast specifically, but definitely their blog content is amazing.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
a decent project management software, whether that be Asana, Notion, Monday, something that is going to provide you with structure and discipline around tasks and deadlines per team member.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm a big systems person. Which platform do you use now?
I actually use a combination at the moment, but I will be moving on the 1st of November to Notion. I am obsessed with Notion.
Oh, it's a great tool, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. The amount that it is able to bring together. I feel it's been the missing piece of the puzzle, not only in my own business, but it will be something that I look to roll out for clients as well.
Yeah, great. So you'll be running your projects on Notion?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 2.5 or 3, just over 3 years ago?
Enjoy the journey. The journey has gone so quickly. I honestly feel as though I've blinked and 3.5 years has passed because it has. It's gone that quickly. One of the things I told myself when I was first starting out is feel the fear and do it anyway. And I had that quote everywhere, on my wallpaper, on my desk, on my iPhone wallpaper, on my desktop wallpaper, everywhere, because I had to remind myself each and every day that the fear was normal and that when we grow, we have to feel uncomfortable. If we're not uncomfortable, we're not growing. So I'm glad I gave myself that advice. It's probably still advice that I would give today, but I would also tell myself to stop and smell the roses a little bit more and enjoy the journey if I could just get 5 minutes to do so.
Great. Thank you very much for your time today, Olivia. I think the audience will get a lot of value out of what you shared with us. An incredible journey, a bit over 3 years, and it sounds like a lot more success to come. And congratulations to you and the team, what you've achieved in that very short amount of time and helping your clients.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.